Hi, my name is Mandolin Royal, and today I'm sitting in this chicken pen watching these 7-week-olds taking a little break from pulling weeds. And if this hen will let me speak, I was going to talk about some of the pros and cons of the American Bresse. Are you going to hush? Or are you going to lay an egg? Let me talk. So some of you guys already have the American Bresse. Some of you guys are thinking about it, and some of you guys are just curious, and you just want to know more about them. So doing a little list of pros and cons might be helpful to all of you. Let me go over here and see if I can get this hen to be quiet. Of course, the inspiration struck during laying hour. Go outside or lay an egg. I don't know what good that's gonna do. But anyways, I guess we can start with one con, which is they can be a little bit noisy. But no noisier than any other kind of layer. Sometimes the males, they want to start crowing when they're 5 weeks old. Most of them delay until normal ages. But they can be a little bit chatty. I don't mind it unless I'm trying to do a video. But the biggest pro for me is that they are dual purpose. And they're as dual purpose as that can get in terms of getting 5 to 6 eggs a week from the females when they're in active lay. And having the boys ready for dinner at 16 to 18 weeks. Though, with our growth rate where it's at now, I started processing some at 14 weeks. And those results were pretty good too. And that puts us into the territory of the commercial hybrid type faster growers without accelerating things too far, which is into that Cornish cross range. Because I'm not trying to reinvent the Cornish cross. I don't raise those. And I'm not trying to breed in that direction. I'm trying to keep a good thing going here with these birds. With that being said, a giant pro for me is being able to hatch more and keep myself supplied in chicken. I haven't had to buy chicken to grow out, to raise for layers. I haven't had to buy meat at the grocery store, and that's been 7 years now. I guess these are they're like our freedom chickens. I am my own best supplier. That's amazing. And we did juggle through a lot of different other breeds, and the others didn't keep up, and they didn't do all the chicken things. Another pro, these birds forage really, really well. I have their door shut right now so that I can look at them and watch them. Otherwise, they're going to run outside and ignore me, and I won't be able to get eyes on them. But if you provide them with the forage, they will go out there and find it. They're plenty agile and relatively self-sufficient in that regard, to where you can give them a feeder full of feed, but they have more enjoyment from going outside and doing chicken things. Definitely a pro. Hatching wise, that's been pretty easy and pretty consistent. Some people, they have vocalized issues with that, and there's a couple of variables involved, either the hatch equipment or the strength of the genetics or the diet. There's a lot of things to rule out and correct to dial in that aspect. Typically, our fertility is 92% or better. And by the time I've set a full tray of eggs all the way through to the final hatch results, I'm usually above 80% for what hatched healthy and ready to go. And that's pretty good, considering I don't go above and beyond on my egg storage, and some of the eggs are older. Oh my goodness! Now they're just hollering back and forth to each other about these eggs. I really need to stop doing videos during laying hour. So another pro, their temperaments. They're pretty easy going. I don't have issues with aggressiveness. I don't have problems that are outside of normal for general chickens. I really like having them around. They're really pleasant. A con, though, is there are aggressive lines out there, and you might not be having that same experience. I hate to say it, but it's true. There's a lot of, let's call it, diversity in all of the flocks, and some are nicer than others. And that aggressive streak is something that you don't want to encourage if you can help it, because there's a big difference between good, strong vigor and being just obnoxiously mean. There's definitely a line in the sand there, and you want to select for vigor but against outright aggression. So what else do I love about these birds? How meaty they are comes to mind. I can tell as soon as I pick them up in my hands if they're going to make the cut or not. I don't need to use my scale, but I still do use my scale to look at a group at large. Like this group in front of me, for example, these guys are 7 weeks old, and everyone in here passed the weight test and the growth rate test and the field test. And that was roughly 75% of their hatch batch turned out to be really good examples. So this whole group, they're going to stay in this pen and grow for the duration since they passed all of my little checks. This pen will hold 12 birds, but I don't like to crowd my pens. These birds do a lot better with a lot of room. You don't want to overcrowd them. So I'm going to whittle this down from 3 males to 1 male, and I'll probably drop off 3 or 4 pellets as I watch them grow. Like that one back there with the pale legs, she's going to be out. Because I still have to nitpick for what the breed is supposed to be. So if I see something not quite right for the standard, I'll pull that bird out and it'll go on to do, in a pullet's case, that'll be breakfast eggs rather than hatching eggs. Besides leg color though, these birds are all pretty similar to each other. Right about once a week, I like to get into the pens, take turns on which pen I'm in, and just sit and watch them. That's definitely another pro. If you like watching chicken TV live in your own coops. Man, these guys are lazy by having this door shut. That's alright. It's cloudy, drizzly, cool. The weather is atrocious, but it's a good day to pull weeds. Another pro, while I'm thinking about it, they don't eat much more than a regular chicken. And that's in sharp contrast to the commercial hybrids that do so much growing so fast. And they have to eat so much at once to keep up with that. These are pretty normal in the feed consumption, nothing crazy. They do benefit from a higher protein feed, and that can cost a little bit more, so we can slide that over to the con list. And I like to keep a minimum of 20% protein going for everybody. Some folks, they'll do a game bird feed or something much higher protein, but I don't think that's necessary to still see good results. And you don't want to put too much protein on them, because if they can't utilize it, they're going to poop it out and it's going to be extra stinky. So generally speaking, once you go past 22% protein, anything above and beyond that's just getting pooped out. So it's not really worth the expense because they're not even going to use it. If you go dig it into the bowels of poultry nutrition, there is such a thing as too much protein. What's more important are those vitamins and micronutrients, and most of that your best source is going to be from free range, getting outside for the free forage, since bugs and fresh greens, that's where the good stuff is for their nutrition. But it's probably been at least 5 years since I have bothered to feed a 16% layer feed. That does not work. I've always ran into some issues either with thin-shelled eggs or messing with my hatch rate. It just wasn't good for breeding protein. So whether I'm growing or breeding, the older girls, they get 20% protein too, which is fine. It's workable. Oh, a con that I'm not crazy about is the boring white feathers and the basic beige eggs. I'm a person that loves art and contrast and color and fun stuff. But here I am with a barn full of white chickens and one egg color. I gave up on the birds with the fancy feathers and the fancy colors. I gave up on the blue layers and the dark brown layers. I used to do the rainbow egg basket, but they weren't doing the dual purpose things. So I sacrificed the look for the function. I'm alright with it, but for some folks that's a deal breaker. I like where I'm at though, with the productivity. These birds work. So that's definitely a pro. I'm going to stand up and look at their width from above. Sometimes that can help you find somebody that might be a little more narrow than another when you're comparing them. Like already by changing our angle, that one's not quite as broad. Besides some variation in leg color though, these are pretty consistent. Oh, that brings me to another con though. Getting a consistent flock is more breeding work than I thought it was going to be. Mostly because I didn't know what I was getting into when I first started. But now that I know better, now that I know what's involved in the whole breed them better than how you found them and getting through your selection and figuring out what your flock goals are, now that I know where I'm at with that, it's a lot easier. But initially, I worried a little bit about if this variety was going to work out or not. I didn't expect as many differences between them as what I saw. But I've reined it in and now we're getting somewhere. Now they're getting more consistent, which slides that over to a pro. Because if you can get your flock to where they produce consistently, it streamlines everything. And it reduces your rate of call. And you can get extra picky on little trivial things like combs and earlobes and aesthetic details. Once you have the majority coming up meaty and being real good layers, then you can start looking at what else you can nitpick about them. All in all though, there's a reason I filled my barn up with all of these basic white chickens. They were the first breed I got my hands on that did all of the chicken things. I love them for it. And then their temperament and the way that they are, at least for this flock, they're easy to have around and I enjoy it. I enjoy each one. So, if you're on the fence about them, try them. But give them a fair shot. If you go to the first person on Craigslist that has them and you get the first cheap dozen eggs off of eBay, I mean, I don't know that that's going to give you an accurate representation of what they can be. I've heard of people having good success that way, but it wasn't everybody. So be careful out there. There's a lot of people who say they have these. How much breeding work was put into them, though? I don't know. It'll vary. So try to give them a fair shot. They can be pretty amazing. Alright, I need to get back to pulling weeds, so more on this later.